Lamb to the slaughter. Like a lamb to the slaughter. Something that you say about someone who goes somewhere calmly, not knowing that something unpleasant is going to happen to them. I Googled it last night. That was what I was thinking when Miss Petso called my name suddenly, and it was my turn to talk. My name is August, I said. Yeah, I kind of mumbled it. What? Said someone. Can you speak up, honey? Mrs. Petso said. My name is August, I said louder, forcing myself to look up. I have a sister named Via and a dog named Daisy, and yeah, that's it. Wonderful, said Mrs. Petso. Any questions for August? No one said anything. Okay, you're next, said Mrs. Petso to Jack. Wait, I have a question for August, said Julian, raising his head. Why do you have that tiny braid in the back of your head? It's like a Padawan thing. Yeah, I shrugged, nodded. What's a Padawan thing? Said Mrs. Petso, smiling. It's from Star Wars, answered Julian. A Padawan is a Jedi apprentice. Oh, interesting, answered Mrs. Petso, looking at me. So you're into Star Wars, August? I guess, I nodded, not looking up because I really wanted what was just to slide under the desk. Who's your favorite character? Julian asked. I stared, thinking maybe he wasn't so bad. Jango Fett. What about Darth Sidious? He said. Do you like him? Okay, guys, you can talk about Star Wars stuff at recess, said Mrs. Petso cheerily. But let's keep going. We haven't heard from you yet, and she said to Jack. Now it was Jack's turn to talk, but I admit I didn't hear a word he had to say. Maybe no one got the Darth Sidious thing, and maybe Julian didn't mean anything at all. But in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Darth Sidious' face gets burned by Sith's lightning and becomes totally deformed. His skin gets all shriveled up and his whole face just kind of melts. I peeked at Julian and he was looking at me. Yeah, he knew what he was saying. Choose kind. There was lots of shuffling around when the bell rang and everybody got up to leave. I checked my schedule and it said my next class was English, room 321. I didn't stop to see if anyone else from my homeroom was going my way. I just zoomed out of class, down the hall, and sat as far from the front as possible. The teacher, a really tall man with a yellow beard, was writing on the chalkboard. Kids came in laughing and talking in little groups, but I didn't look up. Basically, the same thing happened in my homeroom happened again. No one sat next to me except for Jack, who was joking around with some kids who weren't in their homeroom. I could tell Jack was the kind of kid other kids liked. He had a lot of friends and he made people laugh. When the second bell rang, everyone got quiet and the teacher turned around to face us. His name was Mr. Brown. And then he started talking about what we were doing this semester. At a certain point, somewhere between a wrinkle in time and a sheen of the sea, he noticed me but kept on talking. It was mostly doodling in my notebook while he talked, but everyone else, once in a while, I would sneak a look at the other students. Charlotte was in my class, so were Julian and Henry. Miles wasn't. Mr. Brown had written on the chalkboard in big block letters, Precept. Okay, everybody, write this down at the top of your very first page in your English notebook. As we did, he told us to do, he said, okay, so who can tell me what a precept is? Do you know? No one raised their hand. Mr. Brown smiled and nodded and turned around to write on the chalkboard again. Precepts, rules about really important things. Like a motto, someone called out. Like a motto, said Mr. Brown, nodding, and continued to write on the board. Like a famous quote, like a line from a fortune cookie, and any saying or ground rule that can motivate you. Basically, a precept is anything that helps us guide us when making decisions about really important things. He wrote that on the chalkboard and then turned around and faced us. So, what's a really important thing? He asked. A few kids raised their hands, and as he pointed at them, they gave their answers, which he wrote on the chalkboard in really, really sloppy handwriting. Rules, schoolwork, homework. What else? He said, and not even turning around, just call things out. He wrote everything everyone was calling out. Family, pets, parents. One girl called out the environment. The environment, he wrote on the chalkboard, and added our world. Sharks, because they eat dead things in the ocean, said one boy, a kid named Reed, and Mr. Brown wrote down sharks, bees, seatbelts, recycling, friends. Okay, said Mr. Brown, writing all those things down. He turned around, and when he finished, to face us again, but no one named the most important thing of all. We all looked at him out of ideas. God, said one kid, and I could tell that even Mr. Brown wrote God, even though Mr. Brown wrote God down, that wasn't the answer he was looking for. Without saying anything, he also wrote, who we are. Who we are, he said, underlining each word. Who we are. us, right? What kind of people are we? What kind of person are you? Isn't it that the most important thing of all? Isn't that the kind of question we should be asking ourselves all the time? What kind of person am I? Did anyone happen to notice the plaque next to the door of the school? Anyone read it? Anyone? He looked around, but no one knew the answer. It says, "Know thyself," he said, smiling and nodding, "and learning who you are is what you're here to do." I thought we were in here to learn English, Jack cracked, which made everyone laugh. "Oh yeah, and that too," Mr. Brown answered, which I thought was very cool of him. He turned around and wrote in big, huge block letters that spread all the way across the chalkboard. Mr. Brown's September precept. When given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kind. "Okay, so everybody," he said, facing us again, "I want you to start a brand new section of your notebook called Mr. Brown's Precepts." He kept talking as we did and what he was telling us to do. Put today's date at the top of the first page, and then from now on, at the beginning of every month, I'm going to write a new Mr. Brown's precept on the chalkboard, and you are going to write it down in your notebook. Then we're going to discuss the precept and what it means. And at the end of the month, you're going to write an essay about what it means to you. So by the end of the year, you will have your own list of precepts to take away with you. Over the summer, I ask all my students to come up with their own personal precept. Write it on a postcard and mail it to me from wherever you go on summer vacation. "People really do that?" said one girl, whose name I didn't know. "Oh yeah," he answered, "people really do. I have had students send me new precepts year after year that after they've graduated from this school, actually. It's pretty amazing." He paused and stroked his beard. "But anyways, next summer seems like a long way off." "I know," he joked, which made me laugh. "So everybody relax a bit while I take attendance, and then when we're finished with, I'll start telling you about all the fun stuff we're going to do this year in English." He pointed at Jack when he said it, which was also funny, so we all laughed at that. I wrote down Mr. Brown's September precept. I suddenly realized that I was going to like school, no matter what. Lunch. Bea had warned me about lunch in middle school, so I guess I should have known it would be hard. I just hadn't expected it to be this hard. Basically, all the kids, all fifth grade classes, poured into the cafeteria at the same time, talking loudly and bumping into one another while they ran into different tables. One of the lunchroom's teachers said something about no seat saving allowed, but I didn't know what she meant, and maybe no one else did either, because just about everybody was saving a seat for their friends. I tried to sit down at one table, but the kid in the next chair said, "Oh, sorry, but somebody else is sitting here." So I moved to an empty table and just waited for everybody to finish stamping in the lunchroom, and the lunchroom teacher to tell us what to do next. As she started telling the cafeteria rules, I looked around to see Jack Will was sitting, but I didn't see any him on my side of the room. Kids were still coming in, and all as the teacher started calling out the first few table rules to get their trays and start on the line in the counter. Julian, Henry, and Miles were sitting at a table at the towards the back of the room. Mom had packed me a cheese sandwich, graham crackers, and a juice box, so I didn't need to stand in line when my table was called. Instead, I just concentrated on opening my backpack, pulled out my lunch bag, and slowly opening the aluminum foil wrapping of my sandwich. I could tell I was being stared at without even looking up. I knew people were nudging each other, watching me out of the corner of their eyes. I thought I was used to this kind of stares by now, but I guess I wasn't. There was a table of girls that I knew were whispering about me because they were talking behind their hands. Their eyes and whispers kept bouncing over to me. I hate the way I eat. I know how weird it looks. I had surgery to fix my cleft palate when I was a baby, and then my second cleft palate surgery when I was 4. But I still have a hole in the roof of my mouth. And even though I have a jaw alignment surgery a few years ago, I have to chew the food in the front of my mouth. And I didn't even realize how it looked until my birthday party once. And one of the kids told the mom of the birthday boy that he didn't want to sit next to me because I was too messy with my food crumbs shooting out of my mouth. I know the kid wasn't trying to be mean, but he got in trouble later. His mom called my mom that night to apologize. When I got home from the party, I went to the bathroom mirror and started eating a saltine cracker to see what I looked like when I was chewing. The kid was right. I eat like a tortoise. If you've ever seen a tortoise eating, like some prehistoric swamp thing.